Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you guys my updated take on the Subterror deck profile for the 2023 January format. But before I jump into the deck profile, I do want to give a big shout out to the Hidden City Discord server, which helped to figure out the numbers for the deck as well as just the deck building process. I will have that linked down in the description. But with that being said, let's go ahead and run on into the main deck. Starting off, of course, I run 3 copies of Subterror Guru. Only reason why I run 3 copies is because this is a pure build, and honestly, if you're running a pure build, it's best to run 3 copies of Guru. However, for what this card does, it says that when this card is flipped face up, you can then search for one Subterror card from your deck and add it to your hand, except, of course, Subterror Guru. This card also has another effect that says you can target one other face-up monster on the field, flip it to face-down defense position, and then flip this card as well. That effect is a quick effect if you control another Subterror monster. Continuing on for the Subterrors, we do run 3 copies of Subterror Fiendus. Fiendus is pretty much just a hand trap that just says that if you control a face-up Subterror monster, you can flip that card face down to negate a monster effect, spell, or trap that your opponent activates by sending this card to the graveyard. However, it does not destroy that card, so be sure to keep that in mind. This card also has another effect while it's on the field. It says that you can target one card in your graveyard, like one Subterror monster in your graveyard, my apologies, and one other monster you control. Flip that card down to summon the monster from your graveyard, which means that you can summon one of your other Subterror monsters with Fiendus by flipping Fiendus, or if you have Guru on the field, by just flipping Guru. So that's going to be it for the Subterror monsters. I don't run the Archer because, honestly, I feel like you don't really need to run Archer in this build. Continuing on to the hand traps, I run 3 copies of Dimension Shifter just to be able to lock our opponents out of using the graveyard because it's hard to use the graveyard when you don't have a graveyard. Then, of course, I run 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, of course, just to be able to slow down our opponent. And then 3 copies of Lord of the Heavenly Prison because this card says that you can reveal this card in your hand until the end phase of the next turn. Then it protects all set cards on your field, on other players' field, actually. This card also has another effect that's really powerful, saying that if this card is revealed in your hand and a set spell or trap is activated, you can then special summon this card, then set any spell or trap from your deck. You can only use each effect of Lord of the Heavenly Prison once per turn. Continuing on, of course, we run 1 copy of Dark Magician and 1 copy of Red Eyes Black Dragon, just to help us to be able to get into our Dragoon. And, of course, for Dragoon, we do run 3 copies of Red Eyes Fusion. Only reason why I like this package so much in this deck is the fact of it says that you cannot normal or special summon monster the turn you activate this card. However, that does not stop you from setting your Guru and then flipping your Guru face up using the effect of the Hidden City. And you can still pretty much go full combo, even under the lock from Red Eyes Fusion. Continuing on with the spells, of course, we run 3 copies of the Hidden City. The Hidden City has a really good effect, being able to, when this card is activated, you can search for one Subterror monster and add it to your hand. And then the other effect is, once per turn, you can change one face-down defense position Subterror monster you control to face-up attack position or defense position. And then the last effect is when your opponent's monster declares an attack, you can change one face-up down position Subterror monster you control to face-up attack position or defense position to negate the attack, and you can only use each effect once per turn. Continuing on, I do run, of course, 1 copy of Necro Valley. I run Necro Valley because tier limit is a really big problem in this format. And just being able to stop them from moving cards from their graveyard is really powerful. And of course, to go with the field spells, I do run 1 copy of Set Rotation as well as 1 copy of Terraforming, just to be able to get to our field spells. Alright, to continue on, we do run 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. If you do not have Pot of Prosperity, do not worry, you can always just run Pot of Extravagance. However, if you do, there is the chance that you will be banishing your Dragoon, so it's really up to you if you're willing to risk it. For a while, before I could afford Prosperity, I did run 1 Dragoon, and I could use it. However, there were moments when I banished my Dragoon, and I lost that game. Then to wrap up the spells, I run one copy of Terrors of the Hidden City, or Terrors. To wrap up the spell cards, we do run one copy of Terrors in the Hidden City. This card is actually really cool, and I really like how this card was released. However, I will let you guys know right now that this card is not the best option, and I'll explain why as I read this card. This card says your opponent cannot target face-down defense position monsters you control with card effects. The main reason why I think that this card isn't the best is because Lord of the Heavenly Prison protects all set cards, not just monsters. The second effect says that monsters you control that were flipped face up while this card was on the field gain 1500 attack or defense, which I think is really powerful and allows you to help get over bigger monsters. And the last effect says that if this card is destroyed by opponent's card effect, you can target one monster in your graveyard, special summon it in face-down defense position. However, the main reason why I say that this isn't the best is because even that effect, you could always just use Fiendus to summon out your Subterror monsters that you need from the graveyard. So really, this card isn't the best option, but I did want to cover it because it is a really interesting card. However, if you do not want to run this card, I would suggest running a third copy of There Can Be Only One, but I just wanted to cover that because it's still a really interesting card. Alright, continuing on to the traps, we of course run 2 copies of Subterror Final Battle. Final Battle is really powerful, just being able to have 4 different effects, and then once you resolve any one of your 4 effects, it sets this card back face down, so that way you can just keep reusing it on the next turn. So, starting off, the first effect is you can change one set Subterror monster on your field to face-up attack or defense position. Then it also has the other effect of change one face-up Subterror monster on the field to face-down defense position. The third effect is the attack and defense of one Subterror monster on the field become equal to the combined original attack and defense of that monster until the end of the turn. So that way, your Guru, for example, because it has 1600 attack and 1800 defense, it'll become a 34 just to be able to get over big monsters. And then the last effect just says that the activated effects of Subterror monsters or cards cannot be negated. So it's just a really powerful card, just being able to have it, activate and then set itself back face down. And also, this card is not a hard once per turn, so if you have multiple Final Battles set on the field, you can use both copies. Continuing on, adding to the hand trap lineup, which we already run, as you saw, a bunch of hand traps. We, of course, run 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, because just being able to negate your opponent's monster, as well as possibly locking down one of their zones for their spells and traps, is just really powerful. Then I run 3 copies of Summon Limit. Summon Limit, of course, just being able to make it to where both players can only summon up to 2 monsters per turn. It's just really powerful. And then I run 2 copies of There Can Be Only One, because we do run a bunch of different types. But as I said, if you guys aren't too keen about running the Terrors in the Hidden City, you could always run the third There Can Be Only One. The other option that you can run in this is you could possibly run Goes In Match, just to be able to help break boards, because all of our monsters are Earth. Continuing on, we do run, of course, 2 copies of Red Eye's Dark Dragoon. Dragoon is just really powerful by being able to not be targeted by your opponent's card effects, and then as well being able to become an Omni-Negate just by discarding a card, and then you destroy that opponent's card when they activated it. And this card gains 1000 attack, which is permanent. This card also has another really good effect. If you can target cards out on the field up to the number of normal monsters used for the summon of this monster, which would always be 2 because we use Dark Magician and Red Eyes. You can destroy that many monsters on your opponent's side of the field, and then deal damage to them equal to the attack points of the monsters destroyed. So just a really powerful card. Continuing on to the Super Poly targets, because we do run Super Poly in the extra deck, Continuing on to the Super Poly targets, because we do run Super Poly in the side deck. However, of course, if you wanted to add this with something else, then I would suggest you go ahead and do it. Really, the extra deck is kind of just yours to mess with, because we do run the Prosperities. These are really the only important cards you need. But continuing, we do run 1 copy of Garura, just to be able to fuse off 2 monsters our opponent controls with the same type and attribute, as well as if it's into the graveyard, just being able to draw 1 card. Continuing on, we do run one copy of Jurgis Stapelia. Jurgis Stapelia is just a really good card, being able to take one fusion monster and one dark monster, as well as just being a quick effect monster negate. Then we run one copy of Protoplant Trifiovertum. That card is very difficult to pronounce, so if I pronounce that wrong, be sure to roast me in the comments for it. This card requires 3 dark monsters on the field. Then this card gains attack equal to the original attack of all the monsters with a Predator counter, which, of course, we don't really use Predator counters in this deck. However, it has the really powerful effect of once per turn, you can use each of the following effects once per turn. It says, when your opponent special summons a monster from the extra deck while you control this fusion summon card, quick effect, you can negate the summon, and if you do, destroy that monster. Then this card says, if your opponent controls a monster with a Predator counter, you can special summon this card from the graveyard in defense position. So practically, if you have, let's say, your copy of Jurgis Stapelia, you can activate this effect to give your opponent a Predator counter or a Predator counter. And then if you summon out this one, you can just keep summoning it back out as long as that monster remains on field. Continuing on, of course, we do run one copy of Mud Dragon of the Swamp, which just requires 2 monsters with the same attribute but different types. Then, of course, we do run one copy of Intis because we will be running Ultimate Slayer in the side deck as well. Continuing on, I do personally like to run Waking the Dragon in the side deck just to be able to summon a monster from the extra deck if our opponent destroys a card like that set card. So we do run 3 copies of Last Warrior from a different planet just to be able to stop both players from being able to summon. Then we run 1 copy of Blue Eyes Alternative Ultimate Dragon to be able to pop 1 monster on the field each turn, and it's just a 4,500 attack monster. Then we do run 1 copy of Mirror Jade just to be able to start banishing monsters our opponent controls, which we could always just use our Alternative Dragon, because that is the highest extra deck monster I believe I've seen, besides, of course, the 5-headed dragon. Continuing on, I do run 2 copies of Ultimate Falcon, which, of course, the Ultimate Falcon is just really powerful, being very annoying to be removed off the field because it's unaffected by the opponent's card effects. Then this card also says, once per turn during the end phase, you can make all of the monsters your opponent controls lose 1,000 attack, and if your opponent controls no face-up monsters, you can inflict 1,000 points of damage to your opponent. Then, of course, we do run 1 copy of Side from Lord Omega as well, just because it allows us to rip a card from our opponent's hand. Alright, so that's going to be about it for the deck profile, guys. Be sure to leave a like, comment down below what you guys think of the deck profile, as well as what you guys would change. Of course, again, big shout out to the Hidden City Discord server for helping me to mess around with my numbers in this, and just shout out to all the people in that channel. They're really nice. Be sure to also check that out if you really enjoy playing Subterror. But with that being said, I think that's going to be about it for the video, guys, and I'll see you next time. See ya!